What is going on, all you sexy gaming nerds out there? This is Tiezzi-Tech coming at you. Today we're going to be talking about Cyberpunk 2077 and RTX, or the lack thereof. Just kidding, it's of course in the game. But if you don't have a fancy new expensive graphics card, spoiler, turn it off. Just turn it off. So we're going to talk about my thoughts about RTX in this game and kind of just, a general overview and my results of testing a 1650 Super, 1660 Ti, and a 2060 in this game. And there's going to be a lot more coverage than I'm going to do of this. I'm going to have videos comparing, RTX on versus RTX on for reflections, lighting, shadows, all of that stuff. But in this video, I'm just going to be kind of talking about it, giving my general thoughts to you out there. And I wanted to make this video because when I was thinking about purchasing this game, I actually delayed my purchase because I saw these reviews, for example, like with the 3090, performing terribly with RTX on, and I was like, man, should I even get this game? Will it even be, playable on my spec hardware that I have available to me? And thankfully, it totally is. I bought the game. I'm very happy with it. I spent a lot of time playing it. So let's kind of dive into it. And first, there's one thing that I want to say that I'm not seeing. I haven't seen anybody actually talk about at all, and that's turn your fan speed up. This game, for whatever reason, seems to turn your GPU into a frickin' oven. And I thought I was just maybe a weird instance of this, but considering that I tested on 3 different systems and I had the same results where it got my GPU cooking and throttling very hard, that I saw dramatic improvements and less stuttering, less 1% lows with my fan speed turned way up. So definitely turn your fan speed up to the loudest that you are comfortable with, that's not going to interfere with your gaming experience. For me, I play with headphones, so it really doesn't matter that much. I just crank that fan speed all the way up, and on all 3 different settings, and it actually gave me quite a bit more FPS. Not like a huge amount, but it kept the game from throttling and did give me a noticeable boost. So definitely do that. Turn that RTX off. Don't waste your time with it. Yeah, so let's talk about it with it on, though. Is it really that great yet? And no, it's not. It's not at the point where you turn RTX on and you immediately just notice, oh my god, it looks so much better. It's a really slight difference that you're going to have to look closely for. And unless you have it side by side, like, I have videos where I'm going to do that, and I've been able to compare it side by side. It's like, yeah, you can notice the difference. But when you're just playing in a game, just average stuff, it's really hard to notice the difference. Stuff like reflections are really easy to notice. You look in a puddle and you're like, oh yeah, I see my reflection now where I didn't before. But stuff like lighting is harder, and shadows are even harder to notice, where you will end up noticing them, but they don't actually necessarily look better. Like if you really try to find a shadow and like, all right, I got RTX on, you'll notice it actually looks less defined. It does look more realistic in the way, like if a tree's blowing in the wind, the shadow will move with it like it's real, like it would in real life, but it's more like blob shape, which I guess is more realistic rather than like well defined with like all the little different leaves showing and everything like that. So yeah, it's not huge, and so I don't feel like you're missing out if you don't have high-end specs and you're not. You got to turn RTX off. There's no shame in it. You're not losing out that much. If you got high-end hardware, why would you not turn it on if it didn't give you a big hit? But this game is poorly optimized, and that's the other thing that I want to talk about, is that I don't want people to think this is normal. This is how it is. If you turn RTX on, your game's just going to take a huge hit no matter what. I want to compare this to Call of Duty Cold War, because that game has RTX in it, and it's properly optimized for it, where on a 2060, the entry level to RTX cards, in my opinion, it's still a mid-range card. It's not like budget, it's a $300 card. It's not super affordable, but it's the entry to the RTX cards. I get well over 60 FPS in that game with RTX on. I get around 80 FPS with RTX on. And this game, I do not. In fact, it is practically unplayable with RTX on in my experience, so it's not worth it at all. Another thing I want to talk about is DLSS. It is great. I definitely would recommend using that. It definitely gives you a bump in performance and not very much difference in terms of quality. It's one of those things where you're gonna have to, you will notice it, but it's not like, man, this is like night and day. It's a very, very slight difference. Just make sure that you have your DLSS set to quality, not to performance, or you will notice it more. But DLSS quality will give you a little boost. And yeah, but in the gameplay that you're gonna see for this, the gameplay that I have for this video is medium settings, no RTX, and no DLSS. Just to give you an idea for you budget gamers out there that don't have high-end hardware and are going to be running this game on medium settings, that it can look very good still. You're not losing out a whole lot. On medium settings, you're still getting a good-looking game. And if you have an RTX card and you can turn DLSS on, then you'll get even more FPS and it'll look pretty much about the same as this. So yeah. Definitely recommend DLSS, but absolutely don't turn on RTX. And just to summarize, this is not how it should be. This game is just poorly optimized. And so kind of tying in with that, I don't think this is what we should expect for the long run of this game. I don't think we're ever going to see this game super well optimized, but I would suspect with time they're going to release patches and make it dramatically better. I don't think it's an issue of the hardware. I really think, it's an issue of optimization here. Because like I said, there's games where you turn RTX on, and it's playable. There's quite a few games now you can play with RTX on that are playable over 60 FPS and not on super high-end spec hardware. So this is actually more of an outlier in that sense. So don't feel like disappointed. You're like, I got an RTX card and I've been waiting for more RTX games, and gosh darn it, why? It's just this game. There's other games that will be better optimized, and I'm sure in time this game will be better optimized as well. So now let's also kind of talk over my experience with the 1650, the 1660 Ti, and the 2060. So unfortunately, this game is very, very hardware dependent, and assuming that you're turning your fan speed all the way up to keep your GPU as cool as possible so it doesn't throttle itself, it still on a 1650 is going to be struggling. It's not going to be a super great experience on, high settings. It's really not playable. You're going to have to turn it down to something like low settings, and it will be playable there. So if you just want to play this game and you don't have high-end specs, you can't play it on a 1650, put it on the low setting preset. 1660 Ti can actually play on high settings for this game. It works fine. I would recommend medium settings as you get a little more FPS, and I think, as you'll see from this footage, the medium settings still look darn good. So I would recommend medium settings for that. And like I said, make sure your fan speed's all the way up. And you really, I tried messing with the settings a lot in this game, and I will have a video that focuses more on that, tweaking the settings. But the presets in this game seem to work pretty decent, where you put on the low setting preset, the medium setting preset, they seem to almost do just as good a job as I do, spending like half an hour going through all the frickin' settings. Maybe I'm just a moron, because I am a moron, but normally I tweak all the settings myself. Like in Cold War, I tweaked all of those settings. I pretty much have everything actually just on the highest that it can be, except for Raytracing, which I have on medium for that game. And I have played that game on a 1660 Ti without Raytracing and on a 2060, and that game plays fine on both of those hardwares. But we're not talking about that game. But I want to use that as kind of a baseline of, you can get on a 2060, you can get good performance with RTX in some games. Just not this game, because it's not well optimized. But yeah, so those are my kind of general thoughts on it. For the 1650, put it on low, 1660 Ti medium or high, and then for a 2060, you can just slap on the high preset and you're good to go. Yeah, one thing you can do also is you can turn down the crowds from high to medium. That'll make it really doesn't make a huge difference, but it'll give you a few extra FPS there as well. And like I said, I'll make another video that's much longer going through all the settings, stuff like that, comparing RTX on, RTX off. There'll probably be multiple different videos around different aspects of that. I'll probably do a first impressions video as well once I'm more far along into the game, and I'll also do like a final review and analysis of the game, but that will probably include spoilers, so don't watch that unless you're okay with spoilers, and I'll of course put a spoiler alert at the beginning of that. The gameplay that you're seeing today, don't worry, none of it's spoilers, it's all generic stuff, it's all good, you're all good, you're not ruining anything. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Turn that RTX off. It's not playable, and it's kind of hilarious to me because this game has been so heavily marketed on this RTX feature, and for them not to properly optimize it on launch is kind of funny to me, but in a bad way funny. But it's just what it is. It's just what it is. And make sure you turn that DLSS on because it actually does really help, and I think it's a really neat feature. So if you got an RTX card, and if you don't feel bad. You can still play this game on lower end hardware. Don't be scared. You still can play it. You'll have to make some compromises, but you still can play it. So with all that in mind, I hope you like this video. Give me a like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more content coming out there. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one.